You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.
This is Chip Gilchrist, voice of the Kingston Frontenacs. You're listening to OHL Overtime, an in-depth interview show highlighting the players, coaches, and broadcasters from around the Ontario Hockey League who make the league so great, as well as in-person coverage of events such as the OHL Playoffs, OHL Championship Series, OHL Combine, and more, exclusively on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Here's your program host, Brandon Caputo.
Welcome into another OHL playoff game recap right here on OHL Overtime and on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Brandon Caputo here with you, and I'm going to be joined by a special co-host with me in just a moment, but we're going to break down Game 3 of the OHL Championship Series between the London Knights and the Oshawa Generals. The Knights with a huge comeback victory in double overtime to take it 7-6 and take a 3-0 series lead over the Oshawa Generals, two of the most storied franchises in the Ontario Hockey League, going at it for the J. Ross Robertson Cup. Thank you to those today listening on your favorite on-demand audio platform. Please give us some love, whatever one you chose to listen to us today, as well as give us a follow on Twitter at ArmchairGMPod. As well, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all that fun sort of stuff by searching the Armchair GM Sports Network. As always, OHL Overtime is proudly brought to you by Wild Bill's Auto Repair, helping customers stay safe and confident on the road since 2012 in honor of the late William Robert Hunter. So I'm pleased to be joined now by my guest co-host today, and really pleased he's been able to come on and talk to us about what was an interesting game filled with many storylines and some interesting post-game comments from Derek Laxdal, which we'll get into in the second portion of today's show. But Reece Doumani is on the show with us today, co-host of the OHL in 60 podcast, as well as the Dawgcast, covering the Brantford Bulldogs. You follow him on X at Reece Doumani. Reece, thanks so much for coming on today to discuss what was an interesting Game 3, and I'm glad that you're going to be able to give your analysis here. Before we get going, where can people find all the great work that you're doing with Colin Ward on the OHL in 60 podcast and with the Dawgcast?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Brandon. I'm excited to be back. Second post-game recap of the season for me. Got into an Ice Dogs one earlier on in the year, and I like to use the word interesting because that's a great way to put this game number 3. But yeah, at the OHL in 60 podcast on X, on Instagram, Facebook. Of course, my personal is at Reece Doumani, and then the Dawgcast. Of course, we've shut it down for the summer, but at the Dawgcast pod is where you can find that on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook as well.
And I'm sure you guys are going to be reacting once the series is over to the OHL Championship Series. You guys obviously already did an episode recapping the both conference finals and the draft as well, so you can go find that on all audio platforms, wherever you get your podcasts at. But, I mean, Reece, before we get into it, the Oshawa Generals, after giving up 17 goals through the first 2 games of this series, needed to come out with a better effort in front of their home crowd, and obviously needed to pick up a win to avoid going down 3-0 in the series. Before we get into all the game stats and everything else, what was just your general thoughts on the way the Generals were able to come out with a better effort and kind of the way that things turned in the London Knights' favor, and obviously a Dale Hunter team that's been through it last year as a younger team, kind of where Oshawa is this year, and just that veteran experience and their top elite players being able to come through for them in the end.
Yeah. No, you're right. Oshawa had to be way, way, way better than they were in games 1 and 2. I don't think I could say way enough times, but just you could tell kind of what level both clubs are on. And Colin and I have talked about this as games have been going on, and well, really throughout this OHL Championship Series, that in the Western Conference, the story all year is you've got London and Saginaw. That's your top tier, not just in the West, but in the Ontario Hockey League. Then you've got the Saults. Then you've got Kitchener. And I would throw Oshawa and North Bay in the conversation with Kitchener in that tier. And then, of course, the rest of the Ontario Hockey League. But that shows you exactly where the Knights are. And I know we don't have visuals here for this, but essentially I've got my hand way above my head for where London is. And then I've got my other hand kind of about my chest or chin area where Oshawa is. Like the gap between the two clubs is enormous. And I hope people don't take that the wrong way. Oshawa's a very talented team. They should be in the OHL Championship Series. They're the best team in the Eastern Conference. But it goes to show you that an 8-1 score, a 9-1 score, I mean, it was a 1-goal game, but it's 7-6. Like that just shows you where exactly the West was this year and the Knights and where the East was and the Generals are.
Yeah,
and
the discrepancy was definitely there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Oshawa, they did their part. They had the start they wanted, 3-1 after 1, 6-2 after 2. Like you had the building behind you. I mean, I'm sure you could attest to this, Brandon. You probably heard at least 25 blasts of the goal horn at the Tribute Community Center for the amount of times that it goes off per goal for the Generals. So, it was there, sold out crowd at the Tribute Community Center. Like it was a phenomenal 40 minutes. And for the Oshawa Generals, you're like, they just need to find a way to close it out. And usually a 4-goal lead, if you're a team that's made it to the OHL Championship Series, there should be no reason why you can't hold a 4-goal lead. We saw Oshawa do it all year long, where they were able to just shut it down for the opposition at the start of the third all the way through that final 20. And they couldn't do that. And the London Knights, I mean, it's very rare that we'll see a Dale Hunter coach team that just automatically turns it on. Like that's rare that we don't see that. They had it last year. They've got it this year. It just all of a sudden, whatever reason, a phenomenal speech in the room after 40, maybe from Dale, maybe from a player, whatever it might have been, just to get their rear ends in gear and get them 4 goals. And like you said, we'll get into the stats in a moment here, but the shots were heavily favoring London in that third, obviously outscoring Oshawa 4-0 in that third period. Like that's where that difference shows, is as soon as your foot comes off the gas pedal, boom, London Knights, 4 goals and tie game, eventually go on to win it. So I was surprised that this happened, to be completely honest with you, because I know Oshawa is able to lock it down if they have a multi-goal lead. Just in this scenario, it's the top 6 for the Knights just turned it on in the third.
And, I mean, we'll get into the whole goal summary and everything, but you heard Coach Derek Laxdal talk about his group being a younger group and having to pick them off the ground at times. In that North Bay series where they were up 3-0, lost 3 straight, and were able to pull it together for that Game 7. And you look at it, and they're going through it again here, just a team that's kind of learning on the fly about these really tough situations that you have to battle through. And this London Knights team, I was talking with Ryan Payette of the London Free Press as the third period started, and once that first goal went in for London after Oshawa had taken another bad penalty to start the period from Calum Ritchie, we said if London gets a quick one here in the third, look out, because if that team gets rolling, we saw exactly what would happen. And they can just score in bunches. Connor Punnett was back for the Oshawa Generals, as well as Matthew Buckley, who's a solid depth piece for them. We know that Connor Punnett makes a difference on the ice when his presence is out there, but the Knights did a good job of getting him in the box at times tonight, and for a 4-minute stretch there, they scored 2 goals when he wasn't on the ice. So they know what the it's almost like the London Knights are trying to bait the Generals into parts of their game that they're not equipped with, and the Generals have had to stay out of the box in this in this series, and they haven't really done a good job of that. You look at London, and they've got 17 power plays through 3 games, and they've scored on 9 of them. So the London Knights are a team that you cannot allow to have multiple power play opportunities, but just an incredible third period and 5 unanswered goals for the London Knights being able to grab Game 3 and what really felt like the Generals, okay, maybe they've got a chance in this series, and it all got taken away there, and now they're 1 game away from winning the J. Ross Robertson Cup in 4 straight, which, again, Reece, from your opinion, like, I know that everybody had London picked as the winners coming into the series, but maybe if Oshawa would have been able to get by North Bay in 5 or 6 as opposed to it going to 7, having Beckett Seneca, having a healthy Connor Punnett, like, do you see this series being more competitive than it is so far?
Oh God, it would be way different than we're seeing right now. Absolutely, because as that series went on, you just saw North Bay starting to wear down Oshawa, and as that confidence rises for North Bay or rose for North Bay, it started to drop for Oshawa, and then for whatever reason, completely flipped in Game 7. Whatever the case might have been, Oshawa doesn't care; they got the job done. But it's interesting to think about that, because those late series injuries for the Generals that you talk about, if they sweep, if they get it done in 5 or 6, like maybe we're not looking at a 1-1 series heading back to Oshawa, but we're not looking at an 8-1 score in Game 1. Probably not looking at a 9-1 score in Game 2. And so that's the difference, right? The longer a series goes on, the more opportunity. And of course, we're not sitting here saying we enjoy seeing people get hurt, so it is a blowout for one side or whatever the case may be. Of course, we want the best players on the ice. That's the whole point of this series and the playoffs is we've got the best team from the East. We've got the best team from the West. Let's see the best players on the ice. So the fact that North Bay was able to push it that far, definitely. Like I said, maybe it's still 2-0 London, but we're not seeing 17 goals in 2 games by the Knights. Or maybe we're seeing more than 1 goal per game for the Generals as well. So, no, it's really interesting to think about. And I'm sure Colin and I are going to get into that on the show that, what if, what if? And that's the only conversation you can have after the fact is what if, whether London goes on to sweep in 4, win in 5, 6, or 7, or, if Osh was able to find a way to come back and win the series, if Oshawa falls, it's just what if? What if we saw best on best for every game, and we didn't have these injury issues? Yeah, it's you wonder, right? It's a talking point, whether it be with us here, whether it be between Oshawa media, London media, like it's something to talk about, right? Because I'm sure they want the same as us. They want to see best on best as well.
Definitely not going to want to miss Derek Laxdal's post-game comments in segment 2 today, along with Calum Ritchie, and then from the London side, Dale Hunter and Henry Brzustewicz, the overtime hero in Game 3. So that all to come in segment 2. But we'll get into it tonight with our game stats brought to you by J&L Flooring. If you think you get a better deal anywhere else, you don't know jack. Contact our Niagara Flows location, been your quality flooring project today. Reece, you touched on the shots on net a little bit. 44-36 in favor of the London Knights. The third period in overtime is when things really started to change. London outshot Oshawa 14-6 in that third period, including the 4 goals to none in that category. The shots in overtime were 11-8 in the first overtime for the Oshawa Generals, but then London with 3-0 in the second overtime, including the game winner from Henry Brzustewicz. You really saw the game take. It's almost like the game trended, as you can see with the shots on net category. Oshawa 9-7 in the first, 12-10 in the second, and then things really started to turn in London's favor, and it ended up a 44-36. We also had Michael Simpson, the star goaltender for the London Knights, pulled after the second period, with it being a 6-2 deficit, and he was pulled for Owen Wilmore after giving up 6 goals on 19 shots, and that looked to be a great move in the end by Dale Hunter. But originally on the shots on net, what did you think from the game last night, Reece?
Yeah, and it's funny that Wilmore played longer than Simpson did. I found that hilarious. 40 minutes played for Simpson, 42 minutes played for Owen Wilmore. But you're absolutely right. You kind of saw it trending that way, and of course the power plays are going to help on that with London. Getting the extra body on the ice and having an opportunity to get more shots on net, and Oshawa, really, you're shorthanded. You're not going to get a whole lot going towards the London net. So, power plays have a big part in that, and you're right, 14-6 in the third, albeit Oshawa out shooting London in the first overtime 11-8, but 3 zipping shots in that double overtime, and albeit it lasted 2 minutes. But yeah, it was a trend that didn't look good, and those early power plays in that third period for the Knights definitely helped with that shot total. It just that's what can happen, and you touched on it, the amount of power play opportunities the Knights have had, and that's going to generate more rubber at your own net, and that's going to fatigue your goaltenders as the game goes on. Whether we've seen both their goalies as well in this series, in Bender and Oster, which, by the way, Bender's still one of the best last names of all time in the Ontario Hockey League. But it just that's a trend that unfortunately is the reason why Oshawa is where they are right now. Is the power play shots are they're deadly. They really are, and when you look at the first goal of the third period, a minute 4 in on the power play. Yeah, that's not a recipe for success, and it's unfortunate for the Generals. But you said it earlier, you got to stay out of the box.
Yeah, I mean, the helmet came off in double overtime, and London basically had a power play, a 5-on-4 advantage during that time when the player had to go back to the bench to get his helmet. But it is what it is with that. As far as the power play numbers, 3 of 7 for the London Knights, 1 of 6 for the Oshawa Generals. So I know Derek Laxdal was pretty upset about the officiating and the calls, which we'll get into a little bit later. But his team was 1 for 6 on the power play, so there really is no excuse there for the amount of power plays that they've had in the playoffs. And that was something that Coach Ryan Houlihan had brought up in the East Final, that he wanted to know what they were doing to get so many power plays, because he felt early on in that series his team was not getting many at all, and Oshawa had a lot. So 1 for 6 for the Generals, 3 for 7 for the Knights. What did you see on the man advantage last night?
Yeah. Putting Bonk in that bumper position is deadly. Like, oh my God, throughout the entire series. Really, we've seen it quite a bit throughout the playoffs, but like that is deadly. And we see the movement on the power play from the Knights, whether it's a shot coming from the point, whether it's a shot coming from the sidewall, whether it's in that bumper position with Bonk. Like, and they're quick shots too, right? As soon as they get the puck, it's just gone. Like, there's no hesitation at all. And if you're in the bumper spot, you can't have any hesitation, or else you're not getting a shot off. But just the Knights' ability to move the puck quickly, get shots off quickly, is second to none. Like, it's not even close between them and whoever the next team might be in the Ontario Hockey League, whether it's the Generals, Spirit, whoever it might be. So, I mean, we'll get into the power play stuff and the comments from Mr. Laxdal, but yeah, 1 for 6. You got your opportunities. You just took one more minor penalty and resulted in an extra power play for London. Like, it's the reality is you got to score on the power play to win in the playoffs. 1 for 6. Yeah, you got 1, but that's not good enough. London scored 3 times with only 1 more attempt. So, and I'll save my true thoughts on the comments about the officiating. And really, we've heard about the officiating quite a bit throughout the playoffs. It's been an interesting story, to say the least. And I think each of the final 4 head coaches, minus Dale Hunter, unless I missed a post-game press conference, have mentioned the officials. That includes Chris Lazary and Saginaw as well. So, they've been magnified in the OHL playoffs. Remember, early on, the reviews started to be more prominent, and that discussion started to happen. So it's been interesting throughout these playoffs, but again, it comes down to got to score. That honestly, that's what it is. And when you lose 1-goal games, it's a little different. When you lose 8-1, 9-1, 2-3 power play goals won't make a difference, really. Maybe might not make the gap as big, of course, but I mean, you put yourself in that position, it's tough to really crawl out of it. But in this one, for sure, you score 1 more on the power play. You don't go to overtime, and we're talking about a 2-1 series.
Yeah, and you heard Chris Lazary talk about in the last series that he accused London of diving. So that is what that is. But
he's not the first one to do that.
1 of 6 for Oshawa on the power play.
That's happened for a number of years. But I mean, like, again, it goes back to, and I didn't play at the highest level of hockey, I'll admit, but when you play at a high level of baseball, umpiring has been controversial for a number of years now. Like, we're going to have automated strike zones in the major leagues eventually, but it all comes down to, and this is across football, basketball, we all know NBA officiating has been phenomenal. Hockey, baseball, whatever it is, it's about controlling what you can control. And you're going to get frustrated by missed calls. You're going to get frustrated by calls that are made, but it shouldn't have been a call. Like, you have to focus on what you can control, and you can control keeping guys out of the middle of the ice, in the slot, in that home plate area. You can control the amount of pucks that get to your goaltender by choosing to step in front of it or not. Like, it's all about focusing on what you can control. And then that's honestly what the coach's job is. And like my coaches, whatever sport I was playing, they were always angry, whether, it was hockey, baseball. I played basketball a little bit. Like, coaches never wanted you to go after officials because, again, it's something you can't control. The coaches, of course, they draw up plays. They want you in certain spots. But again, it's something that you focus on the game itself. And then, if you're playing the right way, things are going to go your way. You can't let the referees get in your head and help you make bad decisions on the ice. That it can't happen at this point in the playoffs. Even round one, it can't happen. You have to focus on what you can control and worry about other stuff after the fact, after you've won. And not to say that's the reason Oshawa's in this position, but I think there needs to be a little more attention on focusing what you can control and then worrying about everything else after the fact.
And you can't leave Easton Cowan and Casper Halton both on each circle open.
Well, there's that. Yeah, that's pretty big
for the one-timer spots on the power play. And London's power play is just so lethal that they can beat you in so many different ways. So they were 3 for 7 tonight. As far as the face-off dot, 50-47 in favor of the Oshawa Generals. There were 23 combined penalties in this game as well. A very chippy game, which obviously led to a lot of whistles and a lot more face-offs than what maybe we'd usually see in a game, along with it going to double overtime. But Calum Ritchie led the way for the Generals, 21-29 on the dot. And then as well, Dylan Robrick, 11-22, and Kupalainen, 12-27. From the London side, 16-29 for Sam O'Reilly, leading the way for them. Jacob Julian, not a great night on the dot, 7 of 21. 5-10 for Casper Haltonen, 3 of 5 for Denver Barkey and Max McHugh, respectively, when they had to jump in. But did anything stick out to you from the face-off dot last night, Reece?
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, this was something I thought Oshawa did extremely well, and I know they were fairly close in face-off wins, but if whether you win the face-off battle by 1 or 10. You have obviously, this is Captain Obvious coming out, but you obviously have a better chance to win starting with the puck. And I thought that was one thing that really helped the Generals get 6 and get out to the lead that they had. And when you're chasing the game, it's just, it means you're not getting it done in the face-offs. And it was easy to see that in game 1. It was easy to see that in game 2. Not to say that face-offs were outrageous, but if you obviously have a better opportunity to win when you start with the puck a lot more, and whether that's a clean win, whether that's a scramble where somebody has to come in and help out, that's a step in the right direction. And I think for the Generals, continue to focus on that area of the game. I know it's going to be a battle to get back, but if you start there and work your way out, I still think that's a great route to success. It's just starting with the puck and making sure you can control it right off the draw.
So we'll get into our scoring summary tonight, brought to you by the Niagara Employment Help Center, helping people find work in Niagara since 1983. Check out their up-to-date job board at ehc.on.ca to find your next work opportunity today. Reece, we're not going to go over every single goal here because we could be here for the next 4 hours, but we'll just kind of go through this, and if there's anything you want to touch on. The 3-0 lead for the Generals. They got off to a quick start. They scored 3 goals within a minute and a half span from Calum Ritchie, Luca D'Amato, and Connor Lockhart. And that was exactly the start that you want to see from Derek Laxdal's group after 2 games where they've scored a combined 2 goals through the first 2 games of the series. They come out with 3 goals in a quick span. The crowd's into it at the Tribute Community Center. The roof almost blew off the place when they got the 3rd one from Connor Lockhart. They weren't even done announcing the 2nd goal before Lockhart scored the 3rd. So you look at that 3-0 start for Oshawa, and that's exactly what they needed at that time, and you thought that the momentum was going to carry on with them at that point. But thoughts on Oshawa getting out to the 3-0 lead there?
No, absolutely. Yeah, and I think anybody associated with the Generals would say a 3-0 lead is all they need in order to shut it down. Because again, it's something we've seen all season long with the defense, with Oster. 3 goals seem to be like a climbing Mount Everest if you're the opponent coming back against the Generals. It was difficult. And it was very rare for a team to do so. So yeah, absolutely. The fact that, obviously you got to start with one, and Calum Ritchie is a guy that can carry a team and really bring that energy. And yeah, it took 12-12 to get that first goal. But I think the fact that you play that long 0-0 against the Knights after, especially the first two games went, that's big. And to score in bunches, I think is even more important. Like you had D'Amato, you had Lockhart in there. Lockhart's been there. He's been in those big moments. So the fact that you get those three, I mean, minus Dickinson's goal with just under 3 minutes to go, like, you got outshot, but it was close to a perfect period, in my opinion, if you're the Generals. Obviously, you don't like to give one up within the last 2.5, 3 minutes of a period, but for a team that was down 2-0 and had given up 17 goals, I would say that's a near perfect period from a General standpoint.
Yeah, you mentioned Dickinson getting that goal to stop the bleeding for London, which was big, but you definitely saw the momentum in Oshawa's favor after that first period. And then we saw that more in the second, halfway through. Dylan Robrick on the power play from Calum Ritchie and Luca Morelli. So that was the Generals' only power play goal of the night. But a good play there to get Dylan Robrick the puck in the middle of the ice. And he was able to bury it. At that point, it's a 4-1 game. And you're thinking, okay, you talked about shutting it down. And again, you don't want this London team to get rolling because we see how they can score in bunches. But you thought at that point, a 4-1 game, that things were going to be, pretty much a lock for Oshawa to at least take a game in the series. But this is where I want to talk about here, Reece, in the second period. Again, another flurry of goals within a minute and a half span, again, from the 13:35 mark to the 14:33 mark. Incredible. We saw 3 goals. We saw Kasper Halttunen get a power play goal, his 13th of the playoffs. Just a guy that you don't want to leave open on the power play. He's so lethal with that NHL-ready shot that he's already got from Easton Cowan and Denver Barkey. But then the response right back from Connor Lockhart and Luca D'Amato with their second goals of the game, and you're thinking to yourself, wow, Oshawa is up 6-2 now. They gave up a power play goal to London and come back and score 2 goals within less than a minute between each other. So you thought at that point that flurry there in the second period was pretty wild to see.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And to your point about it, and I'll start with the 4-1 goal. To your point, like make it 4-1 on the power play. It's like, yes, okay, Oshawa, this is, like you said, your opportunity to get one game, get on the board in the series. Like we're talking halfway through the game because it was at the 10:47 mark, right? And again, it goes back to my point. We've seen Oshawa shut teams down up by multiple goals in the latter half of a game. Like that felt like they were on their way to the win. And I think it was big that Oshawa found a way to get the next one, not just once, but twice. With Halttunen, you're like, oh, geez, here come the Knights again. And on the power play, what else is new? But then Lockhart strikes. And I think that was one where you're like, this is different. This game is different than the first two. And not to say that Oshawa really had an opportunity to get the next one and shut the Knights down. But, in this one for sure, like Lockhart strikes within seconds of Halttunen. And you're like, okay, there's the shutdown there. There's the next goal Oshawa needed. And D'Amato adds one. And it's like, okay, they're rolling 6-2, 4-goal lead. Building's into it. It's a great night to be an Oshawa fan. Like I expected, and I did miss the first part of the third period. Unfortunately, I missed a goal, but because I'm like 6-2, okay, I went up, I made something to eat, made a drink, and all of a sudden, oh crap, they scored at 6-3, right? And we'll get into that in just a second here, but those 2 goals by the Generals at 13:58 and 14:33, that had the feeling of Oshawa is winning this game. And then, well, we know what happened after that, but just I had that feeling anyways, like, okay, this is Oshawa General hockey. We've got a series now.
And they were getting the bounces. The Lockhart goal was, a rebound shot off of Simpson's pad that just kind of squeaked by. And then the D'Amato shot, he was actually down low in front of the net and was able to tip one in. So you saw a couple bounces finally get by Michael Simpson that haven't been getting by him in the first 2 games of the series. And you're thinking, okay, it's 6-2 going to the room. You saw Owen Wilmore come out for the third. So They
Yeah.
made the switch
Yep.
for Michael Simpson, the 99 trophy winner last year, as the MVP in the finals for the Peterborough Petes, and why the London Knights went out and got him as their starting goaltender. And he's been so rock solid all year long, and the Generals were finally able to get to him. Like you said, you thought this game was looking like it was going to be different, but then a bad penalty to start the period for the Generals really got this thing rolling for the Knights, as I mentioned on the open. Oliver Bonk, as you mentioned on the bumper spot, just a lethal player in that sense, and why he was a first-round pick of the Philadelphia Flyers. A minute 4 in, and you're thinking, okay, London's down 6-3 at this point. They need 3 more, and this is a team that is able to do that in one period. They got another power play midway through the third period, and it was Kasper Halttunen again with his second goal on the power play from Easton Cowan and Oliver Bonk, and then capitalizes 2 minutes later with his hat-trick goal that was originally given to Oliver Bonk, but he never touched it. I knew the whole time that it was going to be a Halttunen hat-trick, but it took them forever to make that change. But you come out with 3 quick goals there, Reece, in, I guess it was midway through they opened up with the quick goal, but then midway through the third is when it was still 6-3, and you're thinking, okay, Oshawa needs 9 minutes here to close this thing out. 9 minutes.
Yeah.
And they give up the quick 2, and you're thinking at a 6-5 game, you're thinking, oh, wow. And you saw how the game turned, and Oshawa just continued to, I guess be a little bit weary of what was going on, and London just kept pressing and pressing and pressing as that period went on, and it felt like the Generals were just holding on for dear life.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the beginning of that third period and as it continued to go on, it gave me flashbacks of a game at the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium earlier this year where Colin and I had made the trip when the Brantford Bulldogs were in Kitchener, and Bulldogs jumped out to a 5-1 lead after 2. They had chased Parsons out of the game. Malbuff comes in, and you're like, wow. And at the time, Brantford was on a roll, but they really weren't in a spot where they were tops in the East Division, tops at the Eastern Conference. And, just all of a sudden, 1 went in for Kitchener. And you're like, okay, we've got that lead. We built out a lead for a reason. Third one goes in, and you're like, oh, crap. Fourth one goes in. Oh, no. And you had that feeling like everything was going against the Generals in that third period where it felt like it was just a matter of time before we were even. And it's really unfortunate because, like you said, you've got 9 minutes to close it out, a 3-goal lead. You like the Generals' chances, but it was a domino effect. One went in, then the next one went in. Few minutes go by, some chances here and there. Well, then the fourth one goes in the third, and you're like, how the bleep are we tied? Like it was that feeling where once the first went in, you're like comfortable. Second one goes in, you're a little worried. Third one goes in, you're really worried. Fourth one goes in, you're at the, oh crap, what the heck just happened? And I mean, that's the Knights. I mentioned it off the top. For whatever reason, their top 6 is just able to snap their fingers, and they're the best 2 lines in the Ontario Hockey League for 20 minutes at a time. And it's amazing to see that the amount of Knights teams we could go back and chat about, Brandon, for that, whether it be top 3 or top 6 unit that can just snap their fingers and go at it is amazing. And it had that feeling where it was Oshawa's game, and all of a sudden it wasn't. And it felt like London was going to come out on top. They eventually did, but the way the game was going, you're like, okay, this might be the dagger for the Generals.
They really took the wind out of the sails of the Oshawa Generals, and this London team, that top 6, they can just score at will, it seems, when you give them an opportunity to really get going, and that's what happened. And then with less than 3 minutes to go in the third period, they didn't even have the goalie pulled yet. Sam O'Reilly gets the goal for Ruslan Gazizov and Max McHugh to even this thing up. And even before we got to overtime, the last 2 minutes of the game were spent in the Oshawa end again, where London had a few opportunities to end it there. So they honestly could have scored 5 goals in that third period to close it out before it even got to overtime. Oshawa was just reeling and reeling and reeling, and the Knights were just taking it to them in the latter half of that third period. And to me, the Generals were lucky to get it to overtime at that point.
No, I'm with you on that. Like I thought it was going to end in regulation the way it was going, and it was again the same feeling I had when Brantford was in Kitchener. That game got to overtime as well, and I mean it took all of 2 to 3 minutes for Kitchener to end it as well. But no, I'm with you. Like I really didn't think it was going to overtime the way it was going, and it's funny that we got through a full overtime period with nothing on the board. But yeah, I thought it was a regulation win for the Knights as well, the way they were pressing at the end.
Henry Brzustewicz 2 minutes into the double overtime after we went pennantyless and scoreless in the first overtime period. He's a defenseman that's moved up to forward here in the playoffs for head coach Dale Hunter, and he gets the goal from Isaiah George and Casper Halton, and you're not going to score a bigger goal for the younger brother of Hunter Brzustewicz from the Kitchener Rangers, and what a moment for that young man, a guy that didn't report to the Ottawa 67s, was traded to the London Knights as a first-round pick, and again gets in the lineup as an opportunity here in playing a top 9 role, and he gets a bigger goal than he's ever going to score in his life. Just what a moment, and completing the 5-goal comeback for the London Knights to seal it and take a 3-0 series lead.
Yeah. No, and I find it funny that back-to-back years they find a way to get a first-round pick defenseman. One opens the scoring for the Knights and one ends the scoring for the Knights. I found that really funny, but maybe not for yourself, Brandon, being in Niagara for Sam Dickinson. But I just thought that was funny. But I mean, for a guy whose brother got robbed for Defenseman of the Year, I'm still a big fan that Hunter Brzustewicz should have won Defenseman of the Year. It's really cool to see Henry be moved up and get an opportunity in overtime, right? It's usually something that teams might have to shorten their bench to get that win and make sure that they secure a 3-0 series lead, because you never know. You give a team life. That game 2 could have been your last win of the playoffs. So I think it's big that Dale Hunter is able to roll out everybody possible. Obviously the fourth line gets sent in there every so often, but the fact that we're seeing that early in a period, a third line guy, like you said, top 9 being moved up from defense. Usually that 2 minutes, you want to have those top 6 guys out, try to get the momentum for overtime, but he just right place in the right time. And I'm still a firm believer that stick on the ice is better than your stick anywhere else. And as long as it's on the ice, you have an opportunity to score. In the air, you're useless. Realistically, you are useless when your stick's not on the ice. And Brzustewicz here got an opportunity. The shot from George found his stick and it beat Oster. And you could see the, not necessarily frustration, but the facial expression of Jacob Oster. TSN zoomed in on it, which they always find a way to do so after a big goal is scored. And you could just tell he's like that puck goes in and it's just like, oh no. And you see the Knights pour out in the corner. I've seen a few videos from behind the glass from fans of that celebration. And that was the dagger. I said it's in the third about all those goals. You're like, okay, there's the dagger for the Generals, but no, it really was this with Henry Brzustewicz scoring that goal. And it's going to be tough. It's possible, but that goal kind of solidified where we're going to go in this OHL Championship Series.
It did. 7-6 for the London Knights after a massive comeback in Game 3, and we'll get more post-game reaction from both head coaches, including some interesting comments from Derek Laxdal on the stripes from last night, as well as Henry Brzustewicz and Calum Ritchie. So stay right here. We'll be right back on OHL Overtime, right here in the Armchair GM Sports Network, proudly brought to you by Wild Bill's Auto Repair, recapping Game 3 of the OHL Championship Series.
Wild Bill's Auto Repair is your local center for auto maintenance and repair in the Niagara region. Since 2012, Wild Bill's Auto Repair and Body Shop has been helping customers stay safe and confident on the road, knowing their vehicles in top running condition through their services. Located at 7868 Oakwood Drive in Niagara Falls, the garage started as a tribute to the owner's father, William Robert Hunter, who passed away, continuing the same community spirit and high level of service which customers came to expect from him back at Hunter's Auto Repair. Their multi-award-winning auto shop has earned the trust of the Niagara community with its fair treatment of all customers, who can feel confident they'll get the trustworthy advice and repairs during their visit. Their experienced crew loves meeting new people and looks forward to forming a lasting partnership for the care of your cars. To find out more or to book a service, contact them today. 905-358-7868 or wildbillsauto.ca. Wild Bill's Auto Repair, helping customers stay safe and confident on the road since 2012. J&L Flooring is Niagara's specialty flooring and design company. They take great pride and provide elite customer service and support. With a beautiful showroom, great pricing, and a wide variety of truly unique products, J&L Flooring is your specialty flooring and decor boutique shop. All of their products are environmentally friendly and responsibly produced so you can feel good about your flooring choices. Their goal is to build authentic relationships based on honesty and integrity that they foster with respect and authenticity. Offering a unique and wide range of quality products presented by a knowledgeable and patient team, they simplify the process to make your life easier and to make your home more beautiful. Visit them at 4424 Montrose Road in Niagara Falls or find out more at jnlflooring.com. If you think you can get a better deal anywhere else, you don't know Jack at J&L Flooring.
Niagara Golf Lounge features 2 state-of-the-art indoor golf simulators, allowing you to play some of the world's best courses all year round. The perfect place to indulge all season long. Don't worry about getting thirsty while you play around with your friends. Their fully stocked bar offers a wide selection of drinks, appetizers, and a variety of meals are also available to enjoy before, during, or after you play. Grab a seat next to the fire in their comfortable sports lounge. Didn't bring your clubs? No problem. They have partnered with TaylorMade to offer you the best rental clubs. You won't want to miss their exclusive NFL and NHL giveaways for the Buffalo Sabres and Buffalo Bills. Located in the Best Western Plus Cairncroft Hotel, 6400 Lundy's Lane in Niagara Falls. Visit NiagaraGolfVacations.com to learn more and to reserve your golf bay today. The Niagara Golf Lounge, Niagara's home for golf and sport all year round.
Pets bring immense joy to our homes, becoming an integral part of our families. But this living, loving experience often requires a little extra care and attention. That's where Global Pet Foods comes in, with owners and staff ready to support you every step of the way. Check out one of their locations today. 3643 Portage Road in Niagara Falls, 160 Highway 20 in Font Hill, or 400 Scott Street and 344 Glendale Avenue in St. Catharines. Global Pet Foods, where pets are undeniably part of the family. Proud to sponsor the Dog Pound Podcast, the official podcast of the Niagara Ice Dogs. Are you currently looking for work in the Niagara region? If so, you owe it to yourself to check out the services provided by the Niagara Employment Help Center, located at 6100 Thoroldstone Road in Niagara Falls. Their many free services include a fully staffed resource area open to the public, resume and cover letter writing, local labor market information, job search strategies, assistance with clarifying employment, training and career goals, employment counseling and job search support, Better Jobs Ontario information and registration assistance, and you can check out their website at ehc.on.ca or call 905-358-0021 for more information. The Niagara Employment Help Center, helping people find work since 1983. You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network, the Niagara region's best local source for North American sports podcasting coverage. By sports fans, for sports fans.
Welcome back to part 2 of today's OHL Overtime game recap right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network, proudly brought to you by Wild Bill's Auto Repair. Brandon Caputo joined alongside my guest co-host tonight, Reece Doumani from the OHL in 60 podcast, breaking down Game 3 of the OHL Championship Series between the London Knights and the Oshawa Generals. Thank you to those today listening on your favorite on-demand audio platform. Please give us some love, whatever one you chose to listen to us today. As well, you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all that fun stuff for you guys, as well as our YouTube channel, where we post all of our audio podcasts there on demand as well. So with that said, Reece, before we get to postgame with Derek Laxdal and the Oshawa Generals, they're down 3-0 in the series now. So, I mean, where do you even go from here? I mean, you can take the positive that, yes, you got Michael Simpson out of the game, but then you weren't able to score one on Owen Wilmore, and he ended up getting the victory. But, like, if you're the Generals and you're down 3-0, you were up 3-0 in the East Final, and you saw how North Bay came back on you. So maybe you take something from that. But regardless, like how do you even move forward here with Game 4 on Wednesday, knowing that you're really in tough right now?
Yeah, no, I mean, to be frank, you'd love to say that there's always a chance, but really, if you're an outsider looking at this, you feel like there is no chance. Just the way the offense for London has shown up, and you're going to see Simpson in Game 4. Like I don't even think with the Edmonton Oilers and their Skinner and Pickard, which actually Pickard starting Game 4, but like there's none of that. Simpson's going to be back in the net for Game 4, so you can kind of wipe that out. Obviously, the goal is to get him out again. I don't think that's not something the Generals are going to be thinking about, but it's a matter of just not letting the puck in your net. Like as much as you want to, and again, we'll get to my true thoughts on this in just a second here, but I think you honestly have to start with defense first. And I know that's not a way to win a playoff game. You have to attack any opportunity that you get. But the amount of pucks that have gone in the Oshawa net in 3 games, you have to figure that the plan is A, clog the slot, clog that home plate area. It's tough to defend Cowan. It's tough to defend Bonk. It's, George at the point does such a great job moving the puck, getting shots through. But you have to focus on the middle of the ice. And whether that's clogging the neutral zone through the middle, like I said, clogging the slot in front of your own net, like I think, in my personal opinion, that's where you start. And there's been too many opportunities in front of the net. London, albeit, there are times where outside shots have gone in, whether it be from the point, whether it be from the sidewall, but the middle of the ice has to be clogged. So I don't know if you fully go defense first to start the game, but you at least have to think about it because there are way too many pucks going in your net right now. And defending has been a huge issue for the Generals.
Well, 24 goals in 3 games is not going to get you places that you want to be. So 100% what you just said, I echo that. And they've got to clean up on the defensive side and make this lethal London Knights team really work for it and not have to get into a track meet with them every single game because as much as top-end skill as Oshawa has, and they're missing Beckett Seneca, not many teams in Ontario hockey are going to be able to keep up with this London Knights team and the amount of firepower that they have up front and quick striking, as we saw in this game. So with that, we're going to finally take you to this postgame with Derek Laxdal tonight, as well as Colorado Avalanche first-rounder Calum Ritchie, brought to you by Global Pet Foods. Their pets are undeniably part of the family in all 4 of their great Niagara region locations. Here's the Oshawa perspective postgame after heartbreaking 7-6 double overtime loss to the London Knights in Game 3 of the OHL Championship Series.
Back with more post-game coverage of Game 3 of the OHL Championship Series, joined by Oshawa Generals head coach Derek Laxdal, along with forward Calum Ritchie. Coach, a 7-6 final tonight in double overtime, but just kind of contrasting what we saw tonight compared to the first 2 games. If you're trying to find some positives, was it encouraging to see your team compete the way they did?
Yeah, our guys competed hard. I thought the kids did a great job of getting a lead and playing hard, playing the right way. And then all of a sudden some things happen on the ice. I'm not going to talk about it. And then the calls seemed to change the wrong way for a certain reason. And, and then I thought they got a couple power play goals in the third where there were a couple non-calls. Actually, I'd really like an explanation on at some point in time. But at the end of the day, we let them back in the game. They got some bounces. And then overtime, we had a couple looks there. I think Rich had a couple, Lockie had a couple, and then they got the one in the double overtime.
Callum, obviously hard to gather yourselves as a group right now, but maybe just focus a little bit on what Connor Punnett and Matthew Buckley brought to the team tonight, a little bit of inspiration out of the gate.
Yeah, for sure. They're great players, and really glad to get them back tonight, and kind of saw the change of how the game went compared to the first 2 with those guys in the lineup. They're great players, so I'm very glad to get them back.
Ryan, you want to start?
With just the rubric one when he was in on the break, is that one that you saw that they're?
You just trying to fire me up or what? I thought that was a call that would probably be called 99 of 100 times, and it changed the whole flow of that game. There's no explanation for that not being called. I think it's a poor decision by the referees. And again, I think our group is they deserve an explanation from somebody, because that is a call that should be made. It's not even close. It could be even a slew foot. He knocks the legs out, a leg from behind the feet on Rubric. Not even a call. So, is that the difference in the game? Maybe not, but it changes the whole flow. We get a power play, maybe we score, it changes the whole flow of the game. But I thought the referees got intimidated tonight by the other coach. And at the end of the day, the whole game changed then. So, were we undisciplined? Yes. We took some bad penalties. We took a cross-checking penalty in the third period, cost the goal. We took a tripping call. I just looked at it at the start of the third. That's a penalty. I'm not going to argue it. But the ones that aren't called, there's no excuse for it. I don't care if it's playoffs or the finals. Put your whistle away. You know what? Don't rob these kids an opportunity to get a win. And I think they were robbed tonight.
Coach, you were up 3-0 in the last series. Now you're kind of transitioning. Do you think you learned anything from the way North Bay was able to battle back on you that maybe you can take from it for yourself now?
Yeah, you know what? We have to take one game at a time, one shift at a time. I thought our fans were awesome tonight. They gave us great energy early in the game. We got out to a lead and got out to a big lead. And, London can score at will. They're an offensive team. They come at you. Some of the antics I don't agree with. But at the end of the day, that's the way they play. They battled back, and we had a chance to win in overtime, just like the games against North Bay. Then we didn't get the game finished, and they got what a break we have for us in the overtime. Our guy loses his helmet. He's got to change to the bench, and so we lose a coverage at the net, and it's in the net. So that's hockey. We got to pick ourselves up here. Our backs are against the wall. We're down 3-0, and we just have to focus on Wednesday. Our goal is to get back to London on Friday. We have to focus on Wednesday first.
I know it's pretty obvious, but Connor Punnett being in the lineup and that rugged style that he brings on that back end, just how much easier was it when the defensive lines having number 14 back there?
Yeah, he was good. He brought some good energy to our group tonight, and I thought he got a little bit out of control early in the game. He was trying to get the big hit, and then I thought he settled down, and obviously he hasn't played in a couple weeks, so he should be better on Wednesday. But getting him and Bucks gave us some depth back in our group, and both teams are running three lines pretty hot here, and both teams are getting pretty tired at the end, and that's how usually the game winner gets scored, right? So someone makes a mistake and there's a breakdown, and that's what happened.
Calum, you guys were obviously able to get to Michael Simpson tonight. You guys gave him some big goals and had him chased in the third period, and then back it comes in. But can you talk about being able to get to him finally and knowing that it's possible that you guys are able to put some goals in on him and maybe change the momentum of the series?
Yeah, for sure. I think we tested him more tonight than the first two games, obviously. So, I don't know. I think we just got to keep doing that, keep putting pucks on net. And, it's a tough result tonight, but, we'll bounce back Wednesday.
Wow. There was head coach Derek Laxdal and Calum Ritchie on the Global Pet Foods postgame. Reece, I don't even know where you want to begin with that, but Derek Laxdal, he was a little bit tight-lipped at the beginning, but then when asked by Ryan Payette about the Dylan Robrick breakaway in the third period that looked like he was taken down from behind, no penalty shot called, that really was the one that got the Oshawa Generals head coach pretty irate at that point.
Man, that line, you're trying to fire me up. That's the line of the year, right there from a coach. And we can go on and on about some of the stories from the 2022 OHL Championship of going through that between Hamilton and Windsor, but honestly, it's a great question, and you know what? He's right. For me, that's a penalty. I don't know how you miss that. I'm totally with him on that. That's something that has to be called in that situation. So kudos for that, because he's right. He's absolutely right. In terms of, whether, doesn't matter what antics he was talking about or, referees putting away the whistles. I agree with putting them away for a certain extent, but the obvious ones you got to call. Roberts was obvious. You have to call that. But I think when you look at officiating, and he even said it, there were some bad penalties they took that allowed London to get back into the game. It's just, it goes back to worrying about what you can control compared to what you can't control. And you want calls to be even. You want the referees to call an even game. I totally understand that. but you also have a bigger issue than the referees making calls or not making calls. And the fact that you have let 24 goals in 3 games is a much bigger issue than the refs calling penalties or not calling penalties. And, whether the Robrick, that play on Robrick gets called or not, he's right. It could have changed the game, could have not changed the game, but we'll never know. So again, I still look at that as, yeah, you know what, I agree with them. But also too, it's again, you can't control what the referees do. You can control what you do. And as somebody watching the Oshawa Generals very closely, I mean, I saw them in person 8 times against the Brantford Bulldogs in a season series split between the two clubs. Like, I know Oshawa can defend a 4-goal lead. I've seen them do that multiple times, whether it be against Brantford or not. And, again, the opportunities were there. They gave London opportunities on the power play. A 4-goal lead has to be held in the OHL Championship Series. And you had a 3-goal lead with 9 minutes left. That's, to me, that's where you look at a bigger issue than what the referees are doing is you didn't keep the puck out of your net for the 3rd straight game, inability to make big saves. And Oster's goalie of the year. Him and Simpson were 1-2 all season long, or maybe from December on. But I think in certain situations, you maybe have to expect him to come up with a save now and then. And that just didn't happen. Knights got opportunities to score, and they did. And he said that. Derek agreed that they gave them opportunities to score and get back in the game. But biggest issue is keeping the puck out of your net. You can talk about the referees, but there are bigger issues than that. Trust me.
You talked about the referees getting intimidated tonight by the other coach, in meaning Dale Hunter. I saw that Coach Hunter had kind of pointed at one of the referees like that one was on you earlier in the game. I think it was on the Robrick goal to make it 4-1 on the power play. Kind of pointed at the referee there like that one's on you. And then we saw what happened as the game turned in that way. Like for him to say that, I thought it was very interesting. And he's obviously just very frustrated with the way that his team wasn't able to close that game out. And this is a guy in Derek Laxdal. He's won 2 WHL championships. He's a coach with a lot of pedigree, coached with the Texas Stars in the American Hockey League, an assistant coach with the Dallas Stars in the National Hockey League, and has come back to Oshawa and really turned this program around with the Generals in only 2 short years. So taking nothing away with what Coach Derek Laxdal is as a head coach, and respect that man greatly for his contributions to the coaching.
Mm-hmm.
But again, for him to come out and say that, it might have been a little bit rich in that sense. But I can understand where he's coming from the frustrations of that Robrick call not being called and changing the flow, I guess, of the game. But I think that those guys in that room have to look themselves in the mirror more than that. Like you mentioned, a 6-2 lead going into the third as a team that's in the championship. This isn't like game 20 against the worst team in the league here. This is the OHL Championship, and if you can't lock down a 4-goal lead, then that one's on you. It wasn't like London scored all 4 goals in the third period on the man advantage. That's kind of where I was with that. They got 2 out of 4 on the power play, and a young Generals team that was just reeling, and they're gonna take this as a learning experience as they move forward.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's a game that's, you like that you competed right from the start. You scored 6 on Simpson. You chased him from the game. 100%. There's a lot of positives I take if you're the Generals. 100%. In terms of the comment towards Dale Hunter, I mean, referees have been intimidated by Dale Hunter for a number of years. That's nothing new. And not to say that's a bad thing. I mean, Dale Hunter is Dale Hunter, like phenomenal coach in one of the best in Canadian Hockey League history. That's no argument there. I think if you're a referee and you're being intimidated or not scared, but if that's making your decisions, obviously I hope not, but you also have to take a look in the mirror, and if that's happening, then maybe get out of hockey. But it's an interesting comment for sure. I mean, it's funny, the highlight of Dale Hunter with the iPad last year in Peterborough came up the other day, and I still laugh at the clip. It's hilarious about him yelling and pointing at the iPad. It's so funny. But for me, it's just something you can't control. And the positives for Oshawa, you scored 6. Power plays, you obviously have to be a little bit better. Again, 1 power play goal more you win the game in regulation. So I think it's for Oshawa. And I like the question about what do you learn from that North Bay series that they did that you can now take from them. And the way he answered it, the way I expected him to, but I like that you asked that, Brandon, because it's so important. It's easy to say that, oh, we're just going to go out there one shift at a time and do that and try and get to game 5. But honestly, that's how you have to do it. Like, you can't look at, we got to get to game 7 and then beat them in a phenomenal game 7 comeback. It's like, well, no, you're not there yet. Now focus on game 4 first. Have a good first period. If you get out to a 3-1 lead, I think that's the perfect way to do it, kind of mirror game number 3. But it's about starting with the first period and making sure there is a game 5 by focusing on game 4 right off the hop.
So we'll get to our second post game tonight with Dale Hunter and Henry Brzustewicz, the overtime goal scorer, brought to you by the Niagara Dental Clinic, creating natural smiles in Niagara for 25 years. Forgot to bring your mouth guard on the ice or lost a chicklet? Contact your licensed team of dental professionals in Niagara Falls to get your smile back on track. Here are the London Knights after a massive comeback victory in Game 3 of the OHL Championship Series, and now up 3-0 in the series also.
Here with post-game coverage of Game 3 of the OHL Championship Series, the London Knights 7-6 winners 2 minutes into double overtime. Tonight's hero, Henry Brzustewicz. Henry, first of all, where does that rank on all-time goals you've scored, and maybe just briefly describe the goal for us?
Definitely the best goal I've ever scored, and G just made a great play, looking back door. The guy lost his stick, lost his helmet, so he had to change. So, odd man situation there, and then G found me back door, and I kind of blacked out after that.
Coach Dale Hunter, you've coached a lot of games in this league. Quite an effort from your team there, being down to score 5 unanswered and never quitting tonight.
No, we could have did that, but again, our kids battled back, and it's one of those things that you're never out of game. It's junior hockey. That's why fans like to watch it. You're never out of it, and that's why if you're up and down or whatever it is, just keep working, and good things will happen.
Right.
Dale, Henry scores the goal, a rookie, and you get Owen Wilmore making big saves. Is this a testament to your depth?
Yeah, it is. Henry's a D. Had him put him up forward with their suspensions and stuff, and he came up and played big minutes for us down the stretch and in the playoffs, and he's been very good for us. And Willie's always ready to play. He's a battler, and that's what he did tonight.
Okay, and Henry, to be out there at your age in second overtime, were there any butterflies, or was it just do the job?
No, I think just me and my line mates were just saying work our hardest, and good things will happen. Like all games, just keep battling, getting pucks deep, and cycling the puck, and good things will happen. So I don't think any butterflies or anything. We're kind of built for that moment.
Henry, you switched to forward for this playoff run. How has that adjustment been for you? Obviously a D-man, but moving up to forward, what are some tendencies that you maybe learned as you switch positions here in a pivotal time?
Yeah, I played forward like most of my life, so I think I kind of had that background already, and I don't know, I just kind of use my instincts out there and make the plays that I need to make.
I don't know if you've had a chance to look, but is your brother blowing up your phone yet?
I have no idea. I don't know. He just went home today, so we'll see. I haven't looked at my phone yet.
Coach Dale Hunter, you've coached in a lot of games. Can you remember the longest overtime that you've been a part of, and if you had to, maybe have a coffee in the intermission?
Yeah, we've been a few, and this is one of the longer ones, and two teams battling, and it wasn't a defensive game by any means by both teams, but it's a battle, and you never give up. You just keep pushing.
There were the London Knights, Dale Hunter, and overtime hero Henry Brzustewicz after Game 3 of the OHL Championship Series. Reece, interesting from Henry Brzustewicz there, talking about just getting the pucks in deep and the general hockey answer, but then loosened up a little bit talking about his brother, probably being pretty proud of him there, and just blacking out after scoring that goal, the biggest goal he's ever scored, moving from D to forward, but he did mention that he did play forward for most of his life. So for the London Knights and all of their firepower and all of the top-end NHL prospects that they have, for Henry Brzustewicz, a rookie, to come through as the overtime hero was pretty incredible to see.
Yeah, it really is, and Dale Hunter couldn't have put it any differently, or better, I guess is a better word to use. Like, and that's kind of what the vibe was on social media after that goal was scored. Like, or even actually, you could say after that sixth goal went in, before we hit overtime, is it like it's junior hockey, and that's why fans enjoy it. Like, I've given my thoughts on the Canadian Hockey League compared to the National Hockey League, and give me a game in Owen Sound between the Attack and the Peterborough Petes compared to a game at Scotiabank Arena between the Leafs and Habs. Like, I'll take that OHL action any day. And like I said, Dale Hunter couldn't have said it any better. For Henry, I think that was funny. I probably would have asked him the same thing if he had heard from his brother yet. And I'm sure his brother just getting home. More than likely, we're going to see a Hunter Brzustewicz sighting in game number 4 at Oshawa. But just for him, like it's amazing to see, the guys that you never really think of. And I mean, he was a first round pick, a defenseman all season long, but for a rookie to be able to go into that spot, and whether you have experience at forward or not, obviously at a different level. So that obviously changes a little bit, but like to do it at the most important time of the season in the playoffs just shows you how talented this kid really is. And it's just the beginning. It really is. And for him and really the entire Brzustewicz family, like they're gifted talents, both him and his brother. And it's not going to be the first time you're going to hear Henry's name in a big spot. I mean, if/when the London Knights go on to the Memorial Cup, I'm sure we're going to see him in a big spot in that tournament as well. So, it's for the Knights. They've been in positions before where they're up 3-0. They've been in positions before where they're down 3-0. Like, wasn't a defensive game by any means. Dale said that, and it's just about going back at it and making sure you close it out. But before I wrap it up here, I did want to mention his comment on Wilmore and the fact that you haven't seen really any action throughout the entire postseason. Like to step in and be big and make some big saves and play more minutes than Michael Simpson did is. He said he's always ready to play. And as a backup goaltender, you kind of have that idea that you are the backup, especially when you come into the season and they acquire Michael Simpson. You have to have the mentality to be ready, or else you're just never going to get an opportunity. You're going to be the backup. You're going to move on. But the fact that he made some key saves throughout, the third period, through overtime, wasn't tested obviously in double overtime. Like, I thought that was big as well. And I like that Dale mentioned that because it's so important and so overlooked, because Simpson will be in the net for game 4. I can 98% guarantee that. So that 42 minutes that we saw Wilmore play, that's big for the team, that's big for him, and that's big for the coaching staff, knowing exactly, it wasn't a night for Simpson. If he has another one, no issues at all going to the backup.
Yeah, and I'm glad Ryan Payette brought that up, the testament to the depth, and Dale kind of echoed that with Brzustewicz, and as you just put it eloquently with Wilmore being able to step in, this London Knights team up and down, all 12 forwards, all 6 defensemen, maybe even 7 defensemen if you count Brzustewicz moving up to forward, and both goaltenders can all get through for them, and that's why I think they're going to be a very tough team to beat when it comes to the Memorial Cup. But they still got to get one win here against the Oshawa Generals in the next 4 games here to close it out. But the good start here, up 3-0. So before we get out of here tonight, we're going to put our guest co-host Reece Doumani on the spot with our player of the game, brought to you by the Niagara Golf Lounge. Niagara's home for golf and sport year-round, located in the best Western Care and Craft Hotel in Niagara Falls. Visit NiagaraGolfVacations.com to learn more, to host an event, or to book your golf day today. Reece, you've got a lot of options here tonight. There's a couple of Oshawa players with a goal and 3 assists in Ritchie and Robrick, but I'm sure it's going to come from the London Knights side. Who do you got?
Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of options here, and whether you look at plus minus or not, there's a lot of guys who are plus 2, 3, well, a couple of guys plus 3. You've got your plus 1s, of course. For me, and part of the reason why is because he also set a record in doing this that I just saw, recently or as it happened, I guess. 3 goals, 1 assist. I mean, Kasper Halttunen, it's a record for import players in a single playoff. In terms of goals scored, I mean, I believe it's 15. Like, he's He's been phenomenal. I don't know how else to put it. 15 goals, being that record for an import player in a single playoff. But he continues to find ways to be effective. And for somebody who probably shouldn't be in the Ontario Hockey League because he's got enough talent to be at the next level, it's kind of proving that he should be. And I'm sure he's enjoying his time in London. I'm sure I would as well if I was lighting it up like he is. But, this kind of goes to show that he's also proving everyone that, they put him here in London, and he might have wanted to go here, of course, but, he's ready for the next level. He continues to show that on a nightly basis. And I think the fact that he gets another hat trick, another 4-point night, he's playing on another level. I talked earlier about the tiers of where each team was at in the regular season for the Ontario Hockey League. He's in the London Saginaw tier of how good he really is. And he just, that's amazing. 15 goals in 17 games to set a record. That's clutch. And the best way to describe Casper is he's clutch. He comes up big when you need him to, in a game that the Knights, in my opinion, probably should have lost, the way we've seen Oshawa close out games in the regular season. But for him to step up, come up clutch in the third period to get a couple of goals, that just shows you how good he is. And that's why he's my player of the game.
First year playing in North America, and I think the first little bit was an adjustment period for him, but he does a few good things very well at an elite level, and one of them is shoot the puck. So I think the San Jose Sharks, and by God, they need him going forward.
Big time.
As a person that follows that team, they could definitely use a guy like Casper Halton and moving forward, but he's definitely showing why, as you mentioned, he's got an NHL-ready shot, and playing here in junior hockey this year has elevated him to another level and showcasing what he can do here at the highest stage in the OHL Championship Series. As you mentioned, 15 goals for an import player, breaking a record. Pretty incredible to see in back-to-back hat tricks for Casper Halton, and great choice for player of the game. So as we wrap up, Reece, again, let the viewers know where they can find your work with Colin Ward at the OHL on 60 podcast, and anything you guys got, probably a finals recap and things like that coming up.
Yeah, we're for sure any podcast platform that you find your podcasts, Apple, Google, Spotify, SoundCloud, all of them, we're there. All social media at the OHL and 60 podcast. We switched it up throughout the playoffs this year. We found it a little difficult to do it week by week, especially when games were happening as we were recording. So we went after every single round, and of course, we'll have a full recap for you when this OHL Championship Series does wrap up. We're also trying to work on an interview from somebody that went over to the under 18 championships. We will be able to confirm that when it actually happens. But that's what we're working on. And again, any podcast platform, the OHL and 60 podcast is where you can find us.
Well, Reece, thanks a lot for jumping on today, and look forward to working with you and Colin again going into the future. And a great analysis here, and I'm glad I had somebody else to bounce it off of, because it sure definitely had its storylines in game through the OHL Championship. So really appreciate you coming on, and enjoy the summertime, and we'll talk again in the fall.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Brandon. I always enjoy hopping on. So yeah, anytime you need it, for sure. It's always a good time. And I mean, I'd like the OHL season to come back. I'd like it to be September, but still got to hand out a trophy, so it should be a fun ending.
Absolutely. So we'll enjoy baseball season in the summertime.
Yes.
With that said, that's going to wrap up another OHL game recap right here on OHL Overtime and on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Thank you to those today listening to us on your favorite on-demand audio platform. Give us some love on all social media platforms, whichever ones you choose to use as well. The show is brought to you by Wild Bill's Auto Repair, helping customers stay safe and confident on the road since 2012 in honor of the late William Robert Hunter. The London Knights take a 3-0 series lead and have a chance to close out the J. Ross Robertson Cup Game 4 tomorrow night at the Tribute Community Center in Oshawa, and we'll see if they can get the clean sweep and get themselves the ticket to the Memorial Cup in a rematch with the Saginaw Spirit. So for my guest co-host, Reece Doumani, my name is Brandon Caputo. Thank you to those today listening to us, and we'll talk to you again following the OHL Championship Series. Should be a good one here. We'll see how it finishes off. Have a good day, and we'll talk to you again very soon.